pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first up on our order of business is recognitions. And so I'm going to turn it over to Nick for the District Appreciation of Service Awards.
Okay, hold on one second, just opening this up. So we have our District Appreciation of Service Awards. These are volunteer awards that the district has put together. We do these quarterly. And I'll just read what it says on each of the certificates, and then I'll be inviting the different members of the leadership team in the district to come up and introduce the recipients. So the Hudson School District empowers all students to cultivate their talents, embrace their passions, and leverage their learning to impact the world around them. The Board of Education recognizes the school volunteers, community leaders, and organizations who contribute to our vision and mission. So at this time, I would like to welcome to the stage, I believe, Kim Osterhus. Is she here? Yes, there she is, there, Kim. And she's going to introduce our first recipient.
We would like to recognize Alicia Schneider. The staff at Rivercrest Elementary would like to honor her for all she does for the Rivercrest community. She's a lifelong resident of Hudson. She's graduated from Hudson schools and has always been an active member in the community. Her dad was a Rivercrest noon duty supervisor. Her mom has been a sub at Rivercrest as well. But for Alicia, for Rivercrest, she's been the president of our PTO. She's been a substitute teacher, active parent, and is truly an embedded member of our Rivercrest community. She selflessly supports students and staff alike. She's that silent leader who works behind the scenes and never wants to be in the spotlight. That's why this is so fun. When Rivercrest wanted to order t-shirts last year for our Blue Ribbon School, Alicia personally called all of the distribution plants because she wanted to find us those blue t-shirts. For years, she's sent extra snacks for students who may forget theirs during food drives. She sends extra cans of food for students who might not bring any. Alicia is described by our Rivercrest staff as selfless, generous, and just an overall kind individual. And that's just a few of the kind words that they have to say for Alicia. So we would like to take this opportunity to honor and recognize Alicia Schneider.
All right, next up, I am going to welcome Joe Banky from Hudson Prairie, our Hudson Prairie principal, to introduce the next recipient.
All right, we're going to bring up our kindergarten team, and that's part of the reason that Grandma Carol is being recognized tonight. And I'm actually going to let our kindergarten team speak on her behalf, because she's been volunteering in their room for numerous years. So I've got Susan Johnson, Elsa Bredigan, Christine Nielsen, and Karen Pesic, the kindergarten team here at Hudson Prairie. Come on over, Miss Elsa.
Grandma, okay, this is too high for me. Carol, we are filled with gratitude to you for your 12 plus years of service in and out of COVID. I mean, during our COVID time when we couldn't have volunteers in the school, she came to school, or she did stuff at home for us. She made our memory books. She is awesome. So we thank you immensely for all your valuable work that you've done for kindergarten and for our school as a whole. We've not thanked you enough, and we want to let you know that your dedication is essential to the work that we do. We can't do it well without you, and nor would we want to do it without you, so we thank you. You bring a beautiful, positive energy, and we feel lucky to have you in our presence and to call you friend.
Thank you. And our last recipient tonight is going to be introduced by Mr. Tim Chuckle.
Denny Benoit has provided many years of service to the Hudson School District, and most recently in his countless volunteer hours coordinating our lower-level athletic officials for football and basketball. He often has filled in as an official as well, which he has done for over 50 years. Officials are an integral part of the athletic experience, and like many things, are battling staffing shortages, so Denny's work is extremely helpful to the execution of our athletic competitions. And on a side note, I've known Denny since 1976 when I first met him, and I met his family, and he has been volunteering in this community that time as well. So it's very, very much an honor and a privilege to congratulate Denny Benoit.
Thank you. The board is always looking for individuals that we can recognize and volunteer and in service of our school district. So it doesn't have to be a staff nomination. It could be the community wanting to make a nomination of someone that has done outstanding things and volunteer service to our district. So thank you very much for that. Next up on the agenda is going to be Cheers for Peers. Andrea.
Okay, got a big drink of water beforehand. So really excited we picked up the program again this fall after last year's success. And just for the month of October, we had over 115 nominations. So with all those fantastic nominations, we actually are taking this pool of employees, or this group of nominations, and spreading them over 2 months. So it's going to be the same pool that we're going to award in December as well. But for the first group of 10, and we couldn't quite do 10, so we did 11. Not the best rule follower. But wanted to start off, and I'm talking really fast just so that I can get through them all, but really excited about the nominations and celebrating these staff. We have a really fun gift baskets, or gift for them, that we'll be giving them later this week. So first up, congratulations, Tammy McKenzie. She's an administrative assistant for financial services and been with the district for 16 years. She was nominated by Becky Simpson and Bonnie Stegman. And they said, I admire her strength and perseverance in the financial services department. She has always been willing to help me when she was busy with her own work. I admire how when a problem arises, she says, okay, and starts working on it without a single complaint or frown. And then the other person said, I would like to nominate Tammy for her outstanding support of her coworkers. In addition to her regular duties, she has provided tremendous support to the payroll department as the new individual has transitioned into her role. She goes the extra mile to make her coworkers feel supported in an effort to retain quality employees, and I'm very grateful to have her on my team. Next up, Rika Zabel. She is a school psych at EP Rock and Prairie and has been with the district for 6 years. She was nominated by Mary Cormican and Brandon Tilkins. I'm nominating Rika because she is always kind and patient with staff and students. She has a plethora of knowledge and knows just when to share information without overloading anyone. She's prompt in responding and follows through with everything. Rika is my mentor and has made my transition into the district much more smoothly than I could have anticipated. There have been several times I've had tough situations, and I knew that I could count on Rika to help guide me through these challenges with encouragement along the way as well. Not only that, Rika is quick to respond, balancing my questions with her own busy schedule. She's a great school psych and mentor. Grace Heimdahl is the next one. She's an English teacher at the high school, and she worked in the district for 2 years. Grace was nominated by 3 people, Amber Hargeshmeyer, Kim Schluter, and then an anonymous person. Grace is a bright light in all of our days. She is great to collaborate with and finds a way to connect with all of her students. I appreciate her willingness to help out anyone and everyone she can. She brings such a positive energy to our PLC, and it's always open to sharing ideas. Grace is someone who never needs to take credit for her amazing contributions, and I feel she should be recognized for the infectious attitude and insight she shares with colleagues and students every day. Her positive energy and love for education has made my welcome at Hudson so much brighter. Grace is a dedicated, passionate teacher who deeply cares about her students. She is a second-year teacher who truly knows how to be a teacher. She sees where kids need support and definitely provides it. Ryan Hubert is next, and he's a math teacher at the high school and has worked for the district for 20 years. And he was nominated by another longtime Hudson employee, Brandon Bach. Ryan spent hours over the summer making dozens of video lessons for every lesson we cover throughout the year, which he shared so that all algebra teachers can use them to benefit their students and to help parents of students who need extra resources while their kids are homesick, etc. Next up is Jackie Henneman. She's a long-term sub at the middle school and has worked in the district for 2 years. She was nominated by Tony Benlin and Karen Eben. Jackie goes above and beyond to help not just her students, but all students. She's a happy bubble of positivity, love that, and she truly makes HMS a brighter place. She jumped into a subbing position that likely will go longer than she anticipated, and she has never once complained, lost her patience, or given up. She works with even some of the most difficult students and helps them grow. Jackie works well with the general ed and special ed staff, always working hard to meet the needs of all students. Jackie is caring and enthusiastic in everything she does. Then we have Maren Lukey. She's a math teacher at the middle school and has worked for the district for 14 years. She was nominated by Melody Boersma and Nicole Gunderson. Take one breath. Sorry, starting to lose the breath. Okay. Maren has been the backbone of the 6th grade team this year, and every year for that matter. She is our go-to person and is a great leader. She organizes meetings, helps others, and is so amazing with the students. Maren is the one that always knows the answer, and if she doesn't, she finds it out and advocates for you. She's an incredible educator and team member. My transition from the elementary level to the middle school level has been smooth because of colleagues like Maren. I truly, truly appreciate the time she puts into teaching, into her students, and into her team. Then we have April Finke. She is a math and reading para at Hudson and has worked in the district for 8 years. She was nominated by Ellen Wright, Lisa Wasson, and Kristen Ziebel. She is an amazing educator in person. The students are so blessed to work with her as her tireless effort to help them succeed. As a staff member, she always is willing to jump in and help with any task. She goes above and beyond every day. April is so great with all the students she works with. She also goes above and beyond to help out around the school. She's always trying to find new ways to bring sunshine to the staff. Anything from creating gifts for bus drivers, celebrating custodians, to helping in the classroom. She's amazing. I can no longer think of our building without April. She's always there to lend a helping hand whenever she can. She truly has the best interest at heart. I love these. They're so much fun. Okay, then we have Marlene Vidicic. She is a math and reading para at Prairie and has worked for the district for 19 years. She was nominated by Jess Mollis. Marlene has been so kind, patient, and helpful as I'm learning my new role. She's wonderful with students and a delight to work with. I'm blessed to have her beside me every day. She is fantastic. Then we have Chris Drop. She is the counselor at North Hudson and has worked for the district for 25 years. She was nominated by Paula Blattner and Sarah Heil. Chris is an integral part of the success of North Hudson Elementary School. She has a wealth of knowledge for problem-solving specific students' needs and is a fabulous support for students and teachers alike. Chris literally never stops moving, can be seen hustling from place to place on a daily basis, and jumps in without hesitation when situations arise. She balances her tasks with poise and a positive attitude. North Hudson is lucky to have such a caring, collaborative, and compassionate school counselor. Chris is always there to support the staff and students. She is constantly running around the building and assisting teachers in their classroom, teaching her own classes, helping calm students who are upset, teaching groups to help students learn various skills, and so much more. Glad they didn't list me too much more. I would have passed out. Okay. Next up, Allison Schlecher. She is a first grade teacher at Willow River and has worked for the district for 13 years, and she was nominated by Annie Fredlin. She has been an incredibly inspiring and helpful mentor, as well as a great friend to me. She makes Willow feel like home, and I know I can come to her with any questions. Last but not least, and I happen to see her, I think, over there, Veronica Guzman. She is a 5th grade teacher at Rivercrest Elementary and has worked for the district for 36 years. Yeah. Yes. Veronica was nominated by Pia Freeman, Kate Bart, and Madison Bergman, 2 of which are first-year teachers that she's supporting. Veronica Guzman makes coming to school every day an absolute joy. She is knowledgeable, supportive, and kind. She is a fierce advocate for her students, their families, and colleagues. She works tirelessly to support her team and is extremely patient with us first-year teachers. She has a fantastic sense of humor, making her not only an exceptional leader, but a dear friend. Veronica can regularly be found visiting with students from years past, arriving early and staying late to attend to work that helps others, mentoring multiple new teachers, using her artistic talents to create a display for Rivercrest events, sharing her gardening skills all over the Rivercrest grounds. I could go on and on. Congratulations to all 11 of our recipients.
Before we go on to fall activities, I just wanted to give board members a chance. I didn't do that after our 3 volunteer honorees, but between the staff and the volunteers, you know, these are the great things about this district. We have good people doing good things and, you know, doing great things actually for our students. So I don't know if there's other board members that wanted to comment that, but I just wanted to extend our sincere appreciation for those of you that make it, your mission to prove educations that we're delivering here and make a difference in people's lives. So we really appreciate that.
Mr. President?
Yes. Rob.
Well, congratulations to all the recipients, but I also want to thank all those that took the time to nominate somebody. It just shows that the relationships we have within each of our buildings is strong and that we care for one another. So thank you very much and congratulations again.
All right. I guess next up we have fall.
Mr. President?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
If I could just piggyback, I'm so appreciative that we launched this. I think for many of us who have had kids go through our elementary schools, we get to know our elementary school. My kids were at North Hudson, so I know Chris Strupp. She is amazing. And it's great to hear and have some persona put onto all the teachers in the other buildings and recognize that, man, we have great teachers in every single building in this district, and that is a very fortunate place to be. So thank you for taking on this recognition program and providing us with the opportunity to call out people for the great things they do for our kids each and every day.
So I guess I call on Tim Chuckle. Tim's stepping in for Aaron Moan, our activities director. So Tim, the floor is yours.
So as I like to say, the Raider Nation had a great start to the school year this year, this fall. But instead of me standing up here and telling you about it, I'd like to invite the student leaders of their respective activities to speak a little bit about what happened this fall. So not in any particular order. Who would like to go first? Volleyball?
Okay. Hello, I'm Senior Captain Elena Larson, and I'm just gonna share a few things, like a favorite memory and what this leadership opportunity is kind of giving me and stuff, talk about the program. So a favorite memory of the season for the team is taking 2 sets from Chippewa Falls in our last match. Though it was our last match, we fought hard and competed with the 4th-ranked team in the state. This was a big accomplishment for us and a great way to end one of our best seasons that Hudson Volleyball has seen in 20 years. In this match, we played for each other and left everything on the court. The opportunity to be a captain my junior and senior year has helped my leadership skills grow. I learned to support my teammates through the ups and downs of the season and be a role model for players in or entering the program. I learned to connect with each of my teammates to provide them with what they needed from me as a captain on and off the court. I am grateful to have this opportunity and will take these skills with me for whatever the future has to bring. I'm really proud of how far this Hudson program has come while I've been at Hudson and the direction that it's moving in with a new coaching and initiative from the parent group. I can't wait to see the future for this program.
Hello, my name is Jada Lockhart, a senior here at Hudson High School and a captain of the volleyball team. I'm going to speak a bit about my experiences about being a leader. This season, a challenge we had to work through was adjusting to the 3rd coach Hudson has had in 4 years. Our coach this season is an awesome leader and an amazing person, but coming into the program admitted that there was still a lot she wanted to learn more about. This was a bit challenging for everyone. Going from one coaching style to another was a struggle, and none of us knew what to expect for the season. That being said, as a captain, I tried my absolute best to help assimilate the team with our coaching staff so Hudson Volleyball could be one cohesive unit. I think it's fair to say that this season we did demonstrate that as a team, as it shows in how we played so well together. This challenged me as a leader individually because I wanted to advocate for my teammates and what they wanted, but also wanted to allow our coach to genuinely coach us. For some background, in the past, running the team was left primarily up to our captains. During the 2021 season, although I was not a captain at this time, I recall nearly everything being left up to our captains. It felt like our coach was there to handle coaching duties, but left everything else up to us, which is not necessarily a bad thing by any means, and definitely helped me grow in my coaching abilities, my leadership abilities. This year, however, our coach was incredibly passionate and involved with everything we did. The clear dichotomy in coaching styles was difficult to get used to on my own, but was also hard to help guide the team into as well. However, as the season continued, we all grew closer to one another, coaches included, and any fears or doubts about the season seemed to dissipate. In essence, the program is moving in an incredibly amazing direction with the leadership of the coaches, the young players on the team, and the amazing bonds that have been created. I cannot wait to see what comes of Hudson volleyball. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Kurth, and I am the senior drum major for the Hudson Marching Band. The other drum major could not be here tonight, so I'll just be doing all the talking. So just kind of a recap of our season. This year we marched the largest band we've had in 5 years with 84 kids, which I thought was just really cool, how fast our program rebounded from COVID, going from much, much less than average to well over average. And I was just extremely grateful to have 84 kids on the field this year. On top of that, we performed at 4 football games, 3 of which were in the rain. And it was also just amazing to see all the kids performing in much less than ideal circumstances, but still being able to perform to their fullest potential. And on top of our football games, we also performed at 6 field show festivals. At Cumberland, Baldwin, Chippewa Falls, there was one right here in Hudson, which was a really cool experience. Another great experience was performing at US Bank Stadium. Being able to just walk out into that massive stadium and being able to perform was an experience I don't think I'll ever forget. And to cap off our season, we bus everyone down to University of Wisconsin-Whitewater to perform for the Wisconsin State Marching Band Championships. It's a very emotional weekend, but it's an amazing way to end the season, and we always put out an amazing performance, and it's been really cool to lead the band and watch it grow over the past 2 years. I was drum major my junior year as well. If you don't know what a drum major is, I'm the person on the podium waving my arms around. Yeah, so it's just been an amazing experience, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to lead that group of kids. Thank you.
I'm Darren Chuckle.
I'm Toby Schneider.
And we were 2 of the boys' soccer captains this year.
This year we had a very successful season. We definitely had high expectations going into the season. We started pretty well, and just a recap is we started pretty well, and then in the middle it definitely got pretty bumpy. We had a pretty big loss to River Falls, and that was tough. We definitely went through some stuff as a team, a lot of diversity, or not diversity, adversity. Sorry. The team, we ended up getting back on the road and did super well at the end. We won the BRC, so that was big, and we got #1 seed for the playoffs. We won a really big game against Eau Claire Memorial, and then finally got back to state for the 3rd year in a row, which was huge. Our team motto was together, and we followed that through our whole season as we hung out after games. We had a bunch of team dinners, and we had fun at practices and bus rides. Together was definitely important to us because if we didn't stay together through the season, it definitely could have gone poorly through what we went through, and there were a couple injuries, stuff like that. So yeah, it was a really good year. It was a lot of fun, another successful year, and I think I want to thank all of our parents and the staff that we have, and obviously everyone who supports us, and we also have great facilities and stuff here, so we're set up for success well. Yeah.
I'm Helen Vandenbark, and I was a senior captain this season. So I'm just going to be talking about like how participating in tennis has helped and like added to my life. Yeah, and I'm very grateful for all these things. It has brought me joy daily to make connections with my teammates and to gain new friendships I truly never expected. I learned to love the challenge of a difficult match, finding the fun in each heated point, like with my partner. This is a life skill I will always take with me. Being a captain helped me become a more empathetic person and teammate because I worked to understand how my teammates were feeling in order to create a better team dynamic. Most importantly, it brought me so many special memories to my high school career.
My name's Jenna Simmons. I was also a senior captain of the tennis team. A unique challenge that our team had to overcome would be the fact that we had so many seniors this year. We had 8 seniors on our top 10 varsity team, which is something that we were concerned about preseason and making sure that everyone felt included. However, our ability to accommodate rides for our single freshmen and to our spaghetti dinners made sure that everyone was definitely bonded. The constant van seating shuffles and the ability to come together as a team in such an individual sport made this year so special. Our coach and my fellow captains worked very hard to make sure that no one felt left out and everyone felt equal. Hudson Tennis incorporated all tennis players and valued the all time that we were able to spend on the court this year, and for that, I'm grateful to say that I was a captain. Thank you.
I'm Brady Miller, and this is Ian Rude, and we had the honor of being football captains this year. Last season ended in a disappointment as we finished with a 5-5 record and our lowest placing in the BRC in over 8 years. So it was truly special to watch this year and all the success that we had. This year's success really started off the field. We have an amazing leadership program put on by our coaches, which focuses on character and leadership, effort and teamwork, and that really propelled this team to success. All of the coaches mentioned this year how this team felt more like a team that it had in years past, and that was truly a blessing and an important factor in our success. We were able to finish at the top of the conference for the first time since 2013, and we earned a number 2 seed in the playoffs for our region. And it was just truly an honor and a special experience to be a captain and a leader on this great team.
As Brady said, our team did have a great year, but we did have stuff that challenged us. We did lose a big game to River Falls, and we did unfortunately lose the jug. But after that, we won out, and we battled through adversity and multiple double-digit comebacks. And then we came back, and it got better. And then we won our first playoff game in 6 years. Thank you.
All right, I'm Deesu Haverly, and then this is my co-captain, Ethan Eilertson. This year was a successful year. It was fun watching the team grow. And it was my first year as being a true leader on the team. I was a captain last year, but I didn't do much. But this year I put in the time and effort to really grow the team. And I feel like the team had a whole lot more fun this year. And we grew as a team, and we bonded, and we did a bunch of other extra stuff throughout the season that we didn't have to do, but everyone bought into the program. And that resulted in a 7th place state finish.
Like Adisu said, this year was probably one of the most well bonded our team was. I think our coach would say the same, as it was one of the happiest we've ever seen them. It's hard not to be happy when you have a 7th place finish, but it was really nice to see the boys grow together and just kind of knowing that we had some part to do with that. There was a lot of hard times too, though. We had multiple injuries on the team, people being in and out, such as myself. I got injured before the first meet and was out for the rest of the year, but I still showed up to all the practices, all the meets, and I just tried to be the best captain I could, support the boys while even though I couldn't race, but it's just fun to see them grow in a different way, even though I wasn't competing with them or against them. It was just fun to watch them grow and just keep getting better and better each race. But it was a really successful season, like Adisu said, and we're hoping for an even better one next year. Thank you.
I'm Rebecca Bellany, and this is Riley White, and we're the two captains of the girls cross-country team. Last year, we ended the season strong with a trip to state as a team, which was really big for us. But then this year changed a lot as we lost 3 of our top 5 runners. And we had to adjust to this change, but the younger athletes especially really stepped up and worked hard, and it really showed in the races. And then about halfway through the season, as captains, we helped guide the team to step up our work once we realized our potential for later in the season.
And all that hard work paid off. We placed 5th in our conference and then 4th at sectionals. And one of our runners, Lila Velchek, was able to go to state, and she ran 31st. It was a really great opportunity to see the growth of the season. And like Becca said, to see all of these younger girls who had been on JV to step up and to really take that next step in their running. It's been an amazing opportunity to be a captain for this team, and it has been a great privilege. I'm so grateful for this experience, and I can't wait to see what happens with cross country next year.
Hi, my name is Ellie Wilson.
And my name is Jaden Hartwig.
We're the co-captains for the girls swim and dive team. We kind of started off our season a little bit rocky as we didn't have a coach, but we got super lucky and Heather Bull stepped in. She's been absolutely amazing to work with, and we feel really, really lucky to have gotten to be on her team. Overall, we only lost 1 meet this season, and we got to be conference champs, which was really cool. Just to kind of see all your hard work pay off like that, especially because it was a close meet, and we had no idea if we'd won or not, so getting to hear them announce that at the end was really cool. Anyone who knows me knows that this team means a lot to me. Swimming's kind of my life, it's what I do. And so throughout being a leader on this team, it's just been really amazing to kind of see other girls evolve and see the way they've met their goals and kind of seen swimming become a big part of their lives the way it has in mine.
To go off of what Ellie said, one of the things, our team word this year was drive, which I thought the whole team really embodied and were able to drive through practices, going through every meet, continue to work hard through the whole season, which I think is what really led us to our conference win. I joined swim team freshman year, I've done it all 4 years, I love it, and am so very happy to have been able to lead this team this year and really see it grow and see all of what I've put into it got out of it, so yeah.
Mr. President, are all the kids done now? I just wanted to say a few things real quickly. So I've been lucky enough to have a daughter on the swim team as well, and so I've seen firsthand what all the team means for all the kids. And I wrote down a few things that I heard continuously the kids talking about: leadership, hard work, bond together, and experience. And I think there's so much more to sports than winning. It's also the relationships that they form. So thank you to all the captains and all the kids that participated and the coaches for all your hard work.
Excellent. Very well said, Kate. Any other members that wanted to say anything? I guess this makes the 10th presentation of fall sports that I've seen, and it doesn't cease to make me feel good about our school and about our student body. It's great to see the participation, and just echo everything Kate said, because it isn't just about winning state championships. Those are nice. Those section championships, those are nice. But it's overcoming adversity. We heard people who suffered disappointing injuries, and we heard people who maybe started the season without a coach. So that's what these activities, and just so you know, we don't just recognize sports. I mean, it's other activities, and we do have academic programs that we recognize throughout the year. So I want to thank everyone who's in attendance, and hope you appreciate what our school gets from our students, but what we try to give them, that opportunity that stays with them for the rest of their lives. So, all right, with that, I guess we're done with recognitions. And moving on, we're going to have two sets of public input. And so this being our monthly regular meeting, if you will, where we entertain public comment, first on non-agenda items, and then we have also allow comment for agenda items, but they're not heard at the same time. So we're going to first deal with public comment on non-agenda items. This is for input only. The fact that it is non-agenda just means that the school board can't discuss the item because of state laws that require posting of agenda items. So we're not going to respond directly to public comments that are made at the meeting, although district representatives may follow up with you after the meeting. But just don't expect any specific action to be taken at the meeting in response to the comments that are made. If the board determines that action is appropriate, then an agenda item may be put on a future board meeting, whether that's a work session or a regular meeting. Usually it's work sessions. We rarely bring up things for the first time at regular board meetings. But the board chair, that would be me, will recognize one speaker at a time. Only those speakers who are recognized will be permitted to speak. Individuals who interfere with or interrupt speakers, the board, or the proceedings may be directed to leave. We discourage personal attacks on any individual, including any other speaker, during the public comment session. It's just not acceptable, nor, of course, is obscenities or profanities, and persistence in making such remarks will end the individual's opportunity to address the board and may result in the individual being directed to leave. Now, with that having been said, I will try to get out my timer, and we give our speakers up to 3 minutes. There's nothing saying you have to use the whole 3 minutes. In fact, if you want to have somebody come up with you as a team effort, you both can use the full 3 minutes if you wish. But I will call on folks. Our policy does require that you give your address. I'm just going to state the street and city that you're from and what the topic is. So first up is Cy, and I apologize for any mispronunciations, not purposeful or anything. I guess we should ask folks to put phonetically their pronunciation, but Cy Houston of Grandview Drive in Hudson regarding board policies. Please come forward.
Thank you for this opportunity to address you. I could talk to you as a parent and a grandparent, but I'd really rather talk to you tonight as an ex-school administrator, retired, with 30-some years in it. Started off as an elementary teacher, elementary principal, junior high principal, high school principal, assistant superintendent, program director, and finally superintendent. I was superintendent in 3 states, South Dakota and Pennsylvania, and assistant superintendent in St. Paul. That was 22 years of doing what Nick does and guiding administration and school boards on how to implement effective policy. Now, you can send me home in just a second if you tell me I'm wrong, but I have understood that administration has directed teachers to inform school counselors of any student who questions gender or sexual identity, so that that student name can be transferred by the counselor to the parents. If that's not the case, just say so now and I'll go home.
That's not accurate.
Could you clarify it for me?
What's been directed is if a student is wanting a different experience at school than what their parents would expect them to have when they drop them off at the door, we would need parent permission to change that experience.
Okay, so I understand if they want to change their name, then they've got to get parents to approve that.
Correct.
Okay, so if you're questioning your identity, your gender identity, your sexual identity, name is a critical part of this whole process. The name Cy isn't necessarily gender-based, but Tom, Dick, Harry, Mary, Sue, those names are. So it creates a problem for the student. So my question is, what's the good? What's the good in this policy? What problem is solved? What purpose does it serve? What purpose does it serve if you're the parent? Well, I think the parent probably wants to know. I would like to know. But folks, I'm here to tell you, if you're a parent and you're doing your own job, you will have known already. You will have had discussions with your kid enough. You'd be aware of this already. To have to find this out from a third party tells me that your parenting skills are lacking. What's the good for the student? I can't imagine any good in this for the student. If you out that student and force them then to deal with this in a public fashion, public, by the way, includes parents knowing, you put them in a situation of extreme adversity. Lastly, what's the good for the teacher? You've all heard, you heard tonight, who is it that's one of the best persons in my life? It's a teacher. This sets up the teacher in an adversarial position with at least the counselor, potentially the parents, and the students. And it's just plain wrong.
Thank you for your comment. Next up from the city of Hudson is Talia regarding supporting our gender diverse student body.
Hello, thank you again for another opportunity to speak. I realize you all have a tough job and you're all trying to do the best you can to support our students. I have a few statistics here. Right now, 71% of transgender and gender non-conforming students experience discrimination. 75% feel unsafe at school, which results in lower GPAs, missed school days, and so forth. 41% attempt suicide. Less than 1 in 3 have a affirming home support. In 2022, 32 youth were killed at the hands of a family member because they were gender nonconforming or transgender. Our school officials have been singling out these particular groups by refusing to respect their gender identity and effectually punishing them for expressing that by denying use of appropriate pronouns and chosen name, by giving direction which is verifiable and not conjecture, to educators that if any of their students go by a name and or pronoun other than what is listed in Skyward or what matches their sex assigned at birth, that they are to immediately out them to their counselor, who at that point shall immediately out them to their parents. This is very discriminatory in practice as it targets those particular students who are protected under Title IX. It puts their lives at risk. Thus far at the high school, in one of the meetings, it was brought out that the school records have been being scoured. They've only found 3 so far, and of those 3, with that 41% rate of suicide, one of those 3 is at risk for death. By our school board and our administrators pushing these policies that marginalize these students and remove the one place where they could have a supportive human that gives them hope to continue another day, we're saying that their lives are less valued. We're saying that they deserve a less equitable educational experience. What I would like to see this board do and our district do is seek best practices, have an individual come in who is an expert in gender diversity and gender care for our youth, to educate on how to support our students, to also read the emails that we've been sending that have not been being responded to, that has a policy that is backed by law and case law showing the Montgomery School Board non-binary and gender non-conforming supports in place that not only bridge the relationship between families and said students, but also acknowledges the fact that not all students come from an affirming, safe household, and ways that they can support these students without having to out them before they're ready, or to whom they don't wish to be outed to. For future time, I would like to see you guys take up some sort of policy that protects our students. Finally, Martin Luther King Jr. said, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." Our students have noted the silence of this school board and of this district in not doing anything to protect them.
Thank you for your comment. Next up is Sarah Makovic-Soli of Norwood Drive, Hudson, Wisconsin. Pronoun policy.
I'd like to compliment you for getting my last name right.
Yeah, thank you.
It's no small feat. I wrote to many of you regarding this issue and heard back from some. I supervise a team of mental health social workers, and I feel that I need to speak out on the Hudson School District policy regarding our gender non-conforming, non-binary, and trans kids requesting teachers use pronouns that may not match their assigned sex at birth. According to several studies and CDC data, LGBTQIA+ kids are 4 times as likely to attempt suicide than their peers. A 2020 peer-reviewed study found that transgender and non-binary youth were 2 to 2.5 times as likely to experience depressive symptoms, seriously consider suicide, and attempt suicide compared to their cisgender LGBTQ peers. Only 1 out of 3 trans and non-binary youth find their home to be gender affirming, putting them at greater risk. Every day, I see the psychological harm done to human beings who, as gender nonconforming or non-binary or trans kids, were not supported at home, were not supported at school, or were bullied. It is truly horrifying how detrimental a lack of support and bullying can be to the rest of a human being's life. The good news is that having at least one accepting adult can reduce the suicide risk by a whopping 40%. School has always been a source of support for kids who, for whatever reason, don't have support at home, providing meals, caring adults, encouragement, and reassurance. Hudson's stated policy of outing kids who request the use of a different pronoun to possibly unsupportive parents before they are ready is at best misguided and at worst dangerous. Hudson schools could provide that one accepting adult, that one very important protective factor that could help keep all of our kids safe. I am asking the district to reconsider the pronoun policy, which I would like to see in writing. When the alternative hurts absolutely no one, I cannot imagine why our school district would continue in this fashion. I would like to see the district pivot to a policy that respects, accepts, and loves all kids by doing the simple thing of using their preferred pronouns without possibly outing them at home. I am happy to continue this conversation, to serve on a committee to review this policy and formulate a policy that protects all children. I can also provide resources so you can become better acquainted with this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last citizen to speak about non-action item, Tamira Butler of 5th Street in Hudson.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a high school special education teacher in Minnesota with 20 years experience working with at-risk students, including dozens, actually probably hundreds, who have been removed from their homes due to abuse. Over the years, I've had several trans and gender nonconforming students. I have learned from them how important it is to their safety and mental health, despite my own deeply held religious convictions, to create a safe space for them in my classroom. And I urge Hudson High to reverse its recently created policy of outing trans and gender nonconforming students. Trans students must be able to choose the time and manner in which they share their transness and with whom. They must be able to choose safe people and sometimes Home isn't safe, people. It is not our place to force them to do so. I urge you to end this dangerous and misguided policy.
All right, thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. And next up on the agenda, we have reports. First up is teaching and learning.
Thank you very much. I'm going to invite Jenna Weiland, Elementary Literacy Curriculum Specialist, and Lisa Skoyan, Assistant Director of Teaching and Learning, up to the stage. To quote Cheers for Peers, they are both bubbles of positivity. And welcome to the stage. And they're going to provide an overview of our LETTERS initiative. LETTERS is a professional learning framework based on the science of reading that gives teachers the tools to specifically and explicitly address the needs of their students when it comes to learning to read. The science of reading is a body of research that tells us what matters and what works in literacy instruction. We're looking forward to continuing our professional learning with LETTERS, and we'll determine in the future how we can leverage this learning to improve our reading instruction and outcomes for all students. Take it away.
All right, I'm going to start. So my name is Jenna Weiland. I'm the literacy specialist here in Hudson. And the first thing I'm going to address is that we know this is a reading and spelling resource platform to help our teachers learn on how to be better at what they do every day. And the first thing a lot of people notice is LETTERS is spelled incorrectly. Kind of ironic, right? Well, it's because it's an acronym. It stands for the Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, and it's written by Dr. Louisa Motes and Dr. Carol Tolman. So one of the things you're going to probably wonder is, what is LETTERS? LETTERS isn't a program. It's not an actual tangible resource. It's professional development that provides our teachers and strengthens our teachers' knowledge of the language structure we all live in, the development of the reading brain, and how to nurture the development of foundational literacy skills such as decoding and language comprehension. It's scientifically based. It shows those relationship pieces, and most importantly, it has reliable assessments and theoretical models to help our teachers deliver effective instruction for all the students in their class. I'm going to reiterate that it isn't a reading program. It's what teaches teachers the why and the how of what they're doing. You can really use it with anything in front of you. So with LETTERS, it really focuses on the 5 big skills of literacy. All of our teachers that are currently going through the LETTERS training are doing a case study and putting into action with what they are learning with students in their classrooms and in our schools. The 5 big language and literacy skills are in front of you. And so for most people, these things might feel very foreign. So I'm going to explain all 5 of them to you guys. So for phonological awareness, that is the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate sounds in our spoken language. So for example, when we see the word cat, it's the ability to hear 3 sounds, k, at. It's knowing that that k is a C, not a K, because of the A that follows it. And it's able to manipulate those sounds, like changing cat into cut. Phonics is the understanding of the patterns and the rules that we use to read and write. So for example, did you know that you use CK after a short vowel to make the K sound? So when kids are writing a word like back or stick, they're learning that they use CK because of those short vowels that they follow versus just using a C or a K. The vocabulary piece is knowing not only a word's meaning in context, but also its origin and part of speech. When we look at comprehension, that's understanding and interpreting what our students are reading so that they have that purpose for what they're doing. And fluency is accurately reading with automaticity at a speed that supports their comprehension, but also brings in their expression. So together, these 5 big skills of literacy are what make a skilled reader for not only our kids to be successful at reading, but to also love and enjoy reading as they grow up.
Okay, now that Jenna has shared a brief overview of the LETTERS course, I would like to share training details. Currently, we have 2 cohorts of teachers participating in LETTERS training. A cohort that started in June has 46 participants, and another one that started in August has 36 participants. We also have a group of teachers that are interested in the training that would start in February. The training is self-paced and includes virtual and textbook components.
A teacher spends an average of 1 to 2 hours per week completing coursework, and it takes about 3 months to complete one unit. Jenna checks in with the teachers monthly and provides and facilitates a collaborative meeting after each unit. With this timeline, teachers will complete Letters Volume 1 in approximately 1 year. Does anybody have any questions?
If I could, Mr. President, before questions, just seriously want to thank Jenna and Lisa for their hard work and the teachers that have taken this on. Just in what Lisa described, you can see it's a daunting task. Teachers' plates are full. They've got way more than enough to do. To take this on is a huge commitment. Jenna's support for this has been outstanding. We're really excited to see where this will take us.
Any board members that have questions, comments? Yes.
Mr. President, so to that point about teachers' plates being full, one of the things I continuously think about as we hear from all of the different departments and instructional coaches about the great things happening in our district and the ways we're trying to support teachers is this all takes a lot of time. So I know that we have some professional development time built into our school year, we have days, but how this cohort of 46 teachers who started in June, 36 who started in August, when does this 1 to 2 weeks an hour, when does that happen?
Jenna's looking at me. She'll know better than I, but honestly, we do allow for this work to happen on the job when that works, but it's going to take a lot of time, or does take a lot of time, just outside the workday. That's why it's so impressive that teachers took this on. When you hear what they're learning, the excitement that you hear from Jenna is echoed by teachers where they're, although it takes a lot of time, we're hearing teachers really being fed by the fact that they're learning new ways and new skills that will help them reach their kids.
Well, I will confess I was guessing that was your answer, and I'm biased because I'm the child of 2 public school teachers. I think so often some people think, oh, what a great job. You go to work at 8, you're done at 2:30, right? And I mean, all of the things that our staff are continuously doing, we heard about it during Cheers for Peers that are before and after their formal work day, not just to support their kids and their colleagues, but also to develop their own skills. So that's a whole lot of teachers who have made this commitment. So just very cool. Thank you for sharing this.
Other board members? All right, thank you very much for your report. Appreciate the work you're doing. All right, next up is our action agenda. And so I would entertain a motion right now on the consent items with the language regarding.
Mr. President?
Yes.
We have a TAC update on the agenda.
Oh, I'm
first.
sorry, I jumped ahead. Nick was asking me about how many speakers we have coming up, so that's why. All right, go ahead.
Well, it's such an exciting report. We don't want to miss it.
No, we really
Right?
appreciate these
Yes,
updates, so yes.
Well, and we have had a wonky year with TAC in that we haven't met, we usually meet in August, we have another one in early fall, but with the priority being really on TSS creation, or the replacement of TSS, and that committee's work, knowing the subbing issues that we had, our first meeting at TAC was just last Wednesday. I love the TAC meetings because it's a dynamic group of teacher leaders in the district, about 30 people, with every building's represented, every level's represented, and they're vibrant conversations. So last Wednesday was another one of those situations. Some of the topics we discussed, elementary facilities. I thought that because we're doing forums and we're having lots of discussions about this, that it would be a shorter part of the meeting, but I think it was about an hour that we talked through a lot of the details, a lot of the what-ifs associated with elementary facilities and the potential discussion that you guys are having later tonight. We also discussed TSS because that is such a big initiative that we're working on in collaboration with the teachers. So student services, we talked quite a bit, and Tara led the conversation there regarding staffing. Certainly anybody who wishes to apply for a special ed para role, there's still vacancies. We are struggling with the filling of those positions, the consistent filling of those positions. We talked a lot about IEPs, compliance with IEPs and transitions. Again, with all the different levels represented at the table, it's helpful to hear the different perspectives from the different levels. So that was a good discussion. We had a great discussion on the LGBTQIA+ students and the support for staff. Lots of discussion about misunderstandings about how the application of the policy or of the practice is being implemented, and I think more discussion from there will certainly be occurring. We talked about calendars, and we talked lots of discussion on a variety of topics. It's always lively. It's a robust conversation that, again, I value greatly, and I hope the members of the committee do as well. And we're scheduled for another meeting mid-January, so we're back on schedule.
All right. Great, excellent. Thank you for the update. Any questions for Andrea regarding the TAC update? You said there's 30 people on that committee?
Because there's about 5 administration alone, and then we have representatives. I think we have 4 from the high school, 3, 4 from the middle school. So yeah, once you hit all those buildings, it gets to be quite a few.
So every building has somebody on that committee?
At least one person from every building, yes.
Very good. Any other questions, comments for Andrea? Thank you for your work in that regard. Sorry, I've kind of had my head on a swivel here and looking backward and forward to make sure that nobody has their hand up. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items and the expenditures pursuant to.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Move approval of the consent items and that the Chief Financial and Operations Officer be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $3,190,250.41.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's been a motion, a second. There is no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the consent agenda with expenditures is approved as stated. Next up, we have an agenda item that is financial considerations of capital and operational levies and elementary facility planning. And with that, we have, I think I counted 16 to 18, somewhere in there. Speakers, normally we give 3 minutes, and past practice has been to limit it to 2 minutes if we have more than 5. But unless there's an objection from any board member, I'm inclined to just give the full 3 minutes to whoever wants to use 3 minutes. Again, reminding everyone that there is no mandatory use of 3 minutes. If you want to use 1 minute, that's fine. But with that, is there anybody that wants to limit it beyond 3 minutes? Okay, so we'll keep it at 3. And does somebody else have a better timer? Mine has a tendency of intermittent, it seems like. It goes off when it shouldn't, and all right. Yeah, Carrie, I appreciate it. Our longtime clerk of the school board, so, all right, that's great. Yeah, it's a lot to do up here, so for me to not have technology, the meeting was delayed because of my inability to log in here. So first up, Mitchell, I believe it's Bluen of Bluebird Drive, Hudson, Wisconsin.
Bliven.
Bliven, it is, okay. There was no vowel between the L and the V, and I didn't know it was a V.
It is more than likely my handwriting.
Okay.
I grew up in Hudson and went to the schools and was lucky. And then I graduated in 2009, which was near the peak of when Hudson High School was overcrowded and, you could barely get through the halls. And now I own a home in Hudson. I don't have kids. And in 2016, I voted to renovate the school and use the existing property that we had. When I looked at that, there's several different options for building new schools, building, all these different options, and then one to renovate. Obviously, I voted to renovate, and looking at these new options here for another referendum that I'm still paying for the last one, I'll be paying for the next one. I don't have any kids in the school system, but schools are the basis of our community. I mean, we'll hear again and again about how small schools are good for kids, but there's also a lot of numbers, a lot of reasons why it's smarter to stick with our smaller schools. to demolish two perfectly good buildings to consolidate into one larger. We become less agile, less able to, if we continue to lose students, to shutter one school should we need to in 3 or 5 years, because you're not going to shut down a perfectly new, brand new school. But we could hold off on those decisions. We could renovate the buildings we have, and have more than 2 options for the renovation. The task force was 50-50 split on whether or not it was a good idea to build the new school or fix the existing. And now there's only 2 options for fixing the existing and 6 for building the new. Fixing the existing keeps our costs lowest right now. And if in a few years attendance continues to drop, as some projections are showing, which I don't understand. I don't understand any way how we could look at it and see that we won't have more kids in our school system in 20 years than we do today. I don't want to plan for the next 5 years. I want to plan for 20 years. And if at that point we decide that we need more schooling, then we can expand potentially onto our different schools. But to shutter them down into smaller schools, it removes our ability to adjust in the future. There's no reason to build another school. The costs to renovate, and I specifically looked at Holton, the paint. We don't need to paint the school, but it was listed as part of the basic expenses so that they're all the same color, all the different schools. That's not an important expense. We don't need to do that right now.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Megan, again, Megan Rosinski? Rosowski, okay. Rosowski of Willow River Drive, Hudson.
Hi, thanks for opening it up for us to speak today. I'm the mother of a Holton second grader and of a 2-year-old daughter. I have several concerns about the enrollment projections that are being used as the basis for closing Holton and Willow River Elementary Schools. These enrollment projections were part of a study conducted by UW-Madison's Applied Population Lab. The pandemic and the impact on education and family decision-making in the past 2.5 years have made it very difficult to make accurate projections right now. If we'd gone 2.5 years before the pandemic, I don't think anyone would have guessed where we would have been in 2020, right? And the projections that were done by the UW-Madison Applied Population Lab are based on data through the 2020 census, which was conducted in early 2020. There's been a lot of growth in housing in the school district in the past couple years. More than 300 new housing units were built in 2020 alone, as is noted in the study. To me, one large flaw in the study in the enrollment projections is that it assumes that no families with children will be living in condos, apartment buildings, or townhomes, of which 150 alone were built in 2020. It assumes that children will only live in single-family homes. But we know it's expensive for families out there, and more families are living in multifamily units and condos. If we change the enrollment projections to assume even a small portion of those units would include families with children, we'd be on a different enrollment trajectory. Since 2020, there's been an outmigration of families leaving cities like Minneapolis and St. Paul, moving to smaller towns. My family's one. We left South Minneapolis after living there for 15 years, and we now live out in St. Joe's Township. The population in Hudson and the surrounding area has been growing between 2020 and 2022, according to statistics from the state of Wisconsin. It's been a 1% increase in residents under the age of 18 during that period of time. And the city of Hudson is expected to grow by 37% by the year 2040. And birth rates are rising years after years of decline. So to end this up, I'm worried we're going the way Stillwater did. They closed 3 schools in 2016 to save money by firing staff and building a larger school. They said there is the only way to solve the budget issue. A few years later, last year, overcrowding in the schools, have to build an addition. Redraw boundaries again, students had to have their boundaries redrawn. And the community pushed back on it in Stillwater, and they were told, no, 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 this is the only way to make the numbers work. But now on the Stillwater School Board website, it says these schools were built with the idea of adding on later. And on the Hudson School District website in the FAQ, it states that if we end up with enrollment growth, we can always put additions on. So let's not make the same mistake as Stillwater. Thank you.
Next up, I'm going to get it right this time. Janet Bliven of Bluebird Drive. I've heard that last name before.
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
I have to write mine down. It's very short. I even had to write down, hi, I'm Janet Bliven. That's my son. My husband Ted and I have lived in this community for 35 years. We would like our tax dollars used to support all 6 small community schools. I don't really have any thoughts on whether we're increasing or decreasing in population. It doesn't seem to matter whether it increases or decreases. It still makes sense to keep our small schools. Holton is a great school. It's in great condition. Sorry, I'm off it. I'm going to go back to my paper. The other thing I would like my tax dollars used is to keep those small student to teacher ratio. I think that's best done in our small schools. Our kids attended Holton Elementary. We were pleased with all aspects of that school. I'm just going to speak about me being a parent. I liked the quality of the education at Holton. It was excellent. The social bonding that my kids got of 6 years being with that small group of kids helped them have a nice base to move on to middle school and high school. Lastly, the sense of community, not only for the kids, but for us parents. When I was a young parent and I walked into that school and Vi was sitting behind that desk and she looked up and smiled and said, well, hi, Janet. I didn't have a clue who she was. It made me feel so supported. I would like to support our young parents. It helped me. I think we need to support these young parents. Now I'm an old lady. I have no children in schools. That local community still helps me feel involved in my community. It does me good. I want to keep all 6. I can't imagine Hudson, downtown Hudson, not having a local school for their kids to walk to.
All right, thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. Next up is Diane Wetstein of Vine Street in Hudson.
Hi. Good evening. I could be categorized into the 70% of voters in the district who have no connection to the schools other than paying the bills through the taxes. This was not the case 21 years ago, however. At that time, I had 3 children attending Willow River Elementary. They were kindergarten, 2nd, and 4th grade. I was the Willow parent who led the charge into the investigation and subsequent corrective action of Willow River's environmental health problems. Without getting into all of that directly, let's just say that Willow had fallen into a state of disrepair. There were serious problems with the infrastructure that needed to be corrected, problems that were way beyond the scope of normal budgeted maintenance dollars, problems that only referendum dollars could fix. The Institute for Environmental Assessment was the environmental consultant who evaluated the school and its various systems the summer of 2001. They came to the conclusion that, for example, with the ventilation system, the school, by the way, had a lot of indoor air quality issues, it was better to put in a whole new system than to try to Band-Aid the old system. As a result of these costly recommendations, the talk became raise or remodel. That was when Johnson Controls of Minneapolis, Minnesota, specialists in rejuvenating school buildings, was brought in to assess Willow. The objective was to evaluate the facility, determine sensible options ranging from infrastructure modernization to complete renovation to a decision whether or not to build new. The school board went for the option of the complete renovation, and what a great plan that was. It made use of the existing site, taking advantage of the high ceilings, thick mass, large windows, the terrazzo brick and woodwork, which were all still in excellent condition and were in many ways superior to materials used in new facilities. Johnson Controls reported that the structure itself would last 200 years. The outer skin would be good for 100. The Willow River that you see today is a result of a referendum passing on October 2nd, 2001, which gave $6.9 million towards the complete rejuvenation of the school. It took the old high school, constructed in 1917, and added on in 1920 and 1950, and changed it into a true elementary school. Sadly, we did lose a historic structure in the process. The old 4th Street Elementary School, built in 1920, which housed kindergarten and early childhood at that time. But in the process, we, the community, the school board, saved the original historic structure and modernized the entire campus, which is what we have today. The school board and the community were proactive back in October of 2001, bringing this historic community landmark from the last century into the new century. The school board and community overwhelmingly chose, I'm almost done, to carry this school, Willow River, forward into the future. I worked hard to get that referendum passed, and that was one of the things. This is our choice. We're going forward. It's only been 21 years. How then can Willow River, the historic neighborhood school, be on the chopping block now? Too much was done to save Willow 21 years ago just to see it eliminated now. So, save Willow. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Next up, Scott Ellingson, 6th Street, Hudson.
As we have heard, the best referendum is the referendum that we can pass. To pass the referendum, we need as much of the 30% directly connected to schools and a good part of the other 70%. Option 1 would best unify our 30% base and operate our district in the black. We need the intensity and passion from the November 1st middle school meeting and the people here tonight, to have on our side to pass a referendum. Dr. Ouellette has done a good job of articulating the need for an operational levy question and a capital levy question. The suggested operational levy for option 1 would be $3 million more per year than option 2. For a $300,000 house, the difference would be an additional $10 per month. That's one Starbucks visit a week. Hudson's attraction and charm is its quality education as delivered by its 6 neighborhood schools, elementary schools. Each school is unique, which is okay to be unique, and brings priceless value and connections to our community. Plus, at Willow, we have this wonderful public-private dynamic going on with Trinity and St. Pat's. We've heard a lot about efficiency. Special education is one of the least efficient areas of our budget. We proudly follow the law to serve all students, and we all share that cost. We don't make special needs students' families pay more than others. Likewise, Willow River and Holton Elementary families should not have to pay more by closing their schools and making them travel a greater distance for their education. Closing the admin building and housing them at the 2 schools would better utilize space. Any administrative inconveniences would be far outweighed by Holton and Willow families' inconveniences if their schools were closed. Closing schools is a very permanent and disruptive decision. Major rebounding for students and reshuffling staff would increase anxiety. Before deciding, visit Willow and Holton around school dismissal time. Quietly observe families and kids. Imagine those spaces one day without kids. The referendum signs and passions are ready for option 1. We just have to add a little vote yes to them. This passion can swing a spring election. please think outside the box just a little. Take a little more time to find a creative solution that unites us all. United and together, like this, we heard about the soccer team, we can do this. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Kathy Roberts of Hudson.
I have been with you before and supported the school board, and I was out of town when they had the session at middle school or someplace was about speaking up, and I felt as a parent of 4 kids that went through middle school, as a teacher, now retired from Willow, it is my passion. That school is my passion. And as Scott just said, you just have to walk after school and see all of the parents standing around and beating together. And I was privileged to walk with Arnie Fett and the architects in 2001, as Diane said, when they were talking about how to make the school work for an elementary school. And the architect said, this building will last longer than any other building that you've got here. And it has. We just celebrated 100 years. I was part of that group that organized to have people come in, and we had a celebration, and I know Tracy was here, part of that. So I would just be appalled if you would even consider closing that school, which we put almost $7 million into it and voted it for the community to support and renovate that school. So I am just asking for, not closing a school does not solve the problem. You're just going to add busing. So I am passionate about Willow River because I worked there. I loved that school. I went back as often as I could until COVID happened. So, you know, the other thing I heard is, well, there were 2 other schools in the area, but those are 2 private schools. This is a public school. This is what is our foundation of our America is building public education. And I'm all supporting those that want to go to private school, but I'm a huge supporter of public education and Willow River and Holton.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sandra Conrath of North Hudson. Mrs. Conrath, I think, taught my son in kindergarten.
Yes.
That was 26 years ago. Yep.
Yes. Okay, I'm Sandy Conrath, and I taught kindergarten at the old 4th Street School in Willow River for 27 years, and then I subbed in all the schools for another 10, so I'm well aware of all the schools in the district. They were great years. I feel the same way about Willow as Kathy does. If you've ever toured that school, it is like the Taj Mahal of elementary schools. It's absolutely beautiful. The classrooms are every teacher's dream. The library is phenomenal. And the people are just terrific. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I was talking to Kathy, and way back in the olden days when I got my master's degree, we did a study on effectiveness of elementary schools, and it was shown that the optimal size for elementary schools is between 400 and 500. And once you get over 500, learning starts to bottom out. Test scores go down. Children aren't connected, families aren't connected to the schools. And the neighborhood schools and the smaller neighborhood schools are just the best for teaching kids. Once you get up into the 600, they become children factories. And we don't want that in Hudson.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, we have Jeannie Castro of Willow Drive.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Castro, and I live at 1806 Willow Drive in Hudson. I had the privilege of sending my kids to school at Willow when we lived at 1312 3rd Street. So every day we would walk the kids to school, me and Schmitty the dog. And there was a couple times I even got called by Pat Hodges, the principal, to tell me Schmitty was on the playground again, and I'd have to go pick him up. So that learning experience for my kids, living and going to school in the same community and the families. I met so many people when I walked my kids to school daily and picked them up. And there were tons of relationships built that way. And it's a unique experience to go to school like that. My son, Arthur, who's now 21, said that how important it was to go to a small school and how cool that was. And it just affected him greatly. I also saw my son, Paco, who kind of mimicked something that I created at Willow, where he had an art show at college, and he got all his community friends involved to put on the art show. And why I say that is because it's a unique experience with the renovation. We had a beautiful library, and a bunch of us on the parent group came up with an idea to have an art show for a fundraiser. And so for 14 years, I volunteered at the school, putting on the art show, and each child's classroom created a project that was auctioned off, and they were so proud of those projects, and the whole community embraced the event. And at first, Kathy Roberts, who just spoke, the second grade teacher, it was her idea to do this chairs project, and from there, the community and support grew with the more people that were involved in the project and in the whole art show. So it was just the most magical experience that my kids could have. And I had 4 kids go through the school system. And Sandy Conrath was my daughter's kindergarten teacher. So about an 18-year career at Willow, and I enjoyed every minute as a parent, as well as my kids really had a unique, special, magical education there. So thank you for considering the quality of education that we're providing in Hudson, and I know that you guys will come up with a solution that doesn't interrupt what a cool thing we have going in Holton and Willow and all through Hudson. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next up is Nick Corrent of Holton, Fox Ridge Trail.
Good evening, board members, and thank you for this opportunity. Just want to say this summer I had the pleasure of being a Hudson booster coach for my 8-year-old daughter. Bunch of 8U girls. Might be some parents out here, but we have the best girls in the community in Hudson. We brought the girls to state this fall, coached Hudson fall ball, and we got 13th out of 81. The 3 goals I gave those girls from day one in the coaching: PMA, positive mental attitude, don't give up, motivate, never, and always keep yourself focused on what we can do. Teamwork, but most of all, have fun. I'm here today because I believe in the PMA as the number 1, positive mental attitude, and I'm not giving up on Holton. Back in 1986, I moved to Holton, Wisconsin. Had a rough time in the school system in Southern Florida. My parents got a new job over here, came back to the community, and that school turned me around to where I am here today. Went from 2nd grade. I saw Brian Dahl in the crowd. I don't know if he's still here, but Brian Dahl is also here now, a Holton parent. And Holton is the reason I was successful, turned myself around from a elementary school kid, middle school, high school, Hudson grad, 98, went and joined the Marines, served overseas, found my wife, got married, had a family, moved to Minneapolis, and said, you know what, there's this great place across the river called Holton, Wisconsin. That's where I want to raise my family. Had I known that in 2016, what this discussion is going on here now, I promise you, I wouldn't have moved here. And it's something we have to realize, having the smaller community schools, the smaller atmosphere, the team building that we have, which leads to sports and what we can do, never giving up, is where Holton and Willow River, all these community schools, that's where we are. It's who we bring up. And I just want to say, having my kids, and we heard COVID earlier, the 2020-isms, whether it's the birth rates, and I don't even know if I was part of that census or not. It was a foggy year that year. But to use stats like that, to use stats, and I was at some of these meetings, to use stats that birth rate in the community, I just showed you I'm a Hudson community member, but my stats weren't part of that stat that you guys are using for birth rate. I just brought 2 kids here, and depending on the outcome of the board, I plead you, please don't close these schools. I agree with everyone that's spoken tonight, but I plead you, one of the things we're considering as a family is Holton or Hudson, where we want to end up in 3, 4, 5 years from now. If you close that community today, both my son and my daughter, who are currently in Holton Elementary, may not be a Hudson grad like their dad. So again, I plead you board members, think about this. Think about the increased costs. I know we're looking at savings. I'm pretty sure we can all afford, Mr. Ellingson, I think you were a teacher back in the day when I was going through school, so thank you. But think about the $10 situation that he brought up with the Starbucks, $10 a week. Poll the community. A lot of us don't want our housing values to go down. If people leave the community, we'll pay $10 a month. Might even pay $50 a month, depending on who you're talking to. But again, just please reconsider that. I think we all in this room and outside this room want to keep the schools open. Smaller is better. We don't want to have buses going around, bringing our kids, driving an extra 50 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm almost done, I promise. But those are things that we want to focus on. Smaller is better. And my last point is, if it was even possible to bring up, what would it cost to add a net new school to further keep those class sizes further down? So thank you for your time.
All right, I'm apologize in advance now on this one, but I think Josie Ramsey of Somerset. Is there Josie or Josie Ramsey? Somebody from Somerset? Address? All right. All right, then next up is John Hester of 5th Street. Hudson.
Hey there.
Hello.
I'm John. I have 2 20-year-olds at UW-Madison and the University of Minnesota, and a 16-year-old at the high school, all of whom got their start at Willow River Elementary. And I'd like to talk briefly about investment, demographics, and facilities. When we're talking about closing these 2 schools, we're using the word cost a lot. I'd like to use the word investment. Community schools are an increasingly rare and valuable asset that we should invest in. Our community elementary school was a large part of the reason my family moved to Hudson. My understanding is that I'll need to pay a few $100s a year more in taxes to invest in Willow River and Holton Elementary, our community schools. I say that sounds like an amazing investment. Demographics. I grew up in downtown Springfield, Illinois. For much of my life, the downtown of Springfield was in a continuous state of decay. Not enough young families were moving to downtown. They were instead moving to a series of successive rings moving out from the city center where large new schools were being built. If our downtown area is not attracting young families, I say from experience that we have to turn that around. In my expensive city planning experience playing SimCity, this would mean doubling down on our community school and building some affordable housing. I think all of us here should influence our city council to do the second of those and our school board to do the first. In fact, Springfield, Illinois has been successfully revitalizing parts of its downtown over about the last decade, starting with affordable housing to attract young families. I'm also dubious about the accuracy of demographic projections given just as we emerge from COVID, as other people here have noted. Facilities. I've heard the argument that the two older schools in our district are too old to be brought up to modern facilities standards. I've thought about that and consulted with some teachers, and I'm just not persuaded. My observation was my kids had great modern facilities and equipment, and most importantly, great teachers in a beautiful historic setting. We now have a Gopher at the U of M and a Badger in Madison. While you could argue my family is indecisive with respect to which rodents we support, it's clear that the old building did not limit their educations at Willow River. DirecTV brings to my 1920s house high-speed, high-def NFL Sunday ticket every week. I have every confidence that the school district can continue to provide excellent elementary learning facilities in an historic building, and you should do that, because the alternative being discussed is to close a rare and historic community school, destroying an anchor for our community, denying young kids here now the opportunity to walk to school, giving in to a demographic trend that could ultimately start downtown Hudson on a path to decline, and yes, reducing the property values for me and for all of us downtown, all to save me a few $100s a year in taxes. I object. That proposal is a poor investment. It seems to me like an extreme solution, a permanent one, with more potential downsides than upsides. I think we should all invest in keeping our community schools for now while we work on affordable housing and watch our demographic data evolve for a few more years. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Bert Yardley. Is Bert still here? I saw him earlier. All right, I think he left. Robert Comstock of 3rd Street.
Thanks for having us up here today and allowing us to speak. We appreciate it. A lot of rich history here in Hudson that I am just not a part of, so I'm actually the flip side of this. My kids, 2 out of 3 of my kids were born on an island called Maui, and the school system was so bad there, with 1 high school and 1 elementary school, 30 minutes to drop your kid off, 30 minutes back down the hill, and not a very big emphasis on education like here. So we scoped the world. My daughter was born, had 5 years to pick a spot, and we looked for a small town, values, home pricing, and of course education. So in looking at Zillow and so on and so forth, I found myself constantly coming back over here, and we were building a new school. It was looking good. So we came here, and we actually had my daughter Riley enrolled in kindergarten before I had a job or a place to live. That's how committed we were. And so now we live on 3rd Street. I have 3 kids at Willow River. We love the school. So what I am is unquantifiable. I am your X factor. How are you going to sustain Hudson in the future? Right? It's public perception that brings people in. I didn't come from across the river, but I came from a long ways away. I've owned businesses in Hudson. I bring a lot of tax dollars to Hudson. We love Willow River Elementary School, but mainly what we like is Mayberry, right? We joke about it online. But it's real, and it's a dream, and it's here, and there's no real reason to move past that. Hudson will lose its uniqueness. It will lose its downtown feel. It will lose the term Mayberry, and that brings a lot of people to town. So that's kind of an unquantifiable thing that you can do. What you can do is you can look at the news and find out that our economy is changing. Land values are dropping, so this great piece of land we've had for 100 years will be less valuable 16 months from now. We'll also find that our Rona babies are coming. I do live on 3rd Street. I'm blessed. I was the first person there in probably 6, 8 years. Everybody else's kids had grown up. Some of my neighbors are here now. They welcomed us with open arms. Yay, there's kids, there's noise, there's commotion. Here, welcome back. So fast forward now to today, I have a 2 and 4-year-old on this side. I have a 1 and 2-year-old on this side. We have 5 kids around the corner that are in Trinity, just moved in the neighborhood. We have kids everywhere. I mean, it is loaded downtown. So I don't know how to get you current numbers, but I would encourage you to try to see that the foundation of the starting of this whole discussion, things have changed. And there are people there, and people did leave the cities during the Rona, and our neighborhoods still did fill up. Some of our older people have moved out, younger people have moved in. With the high school referendum happening, it was rated at 8.0. Everybody's house values rose, right? So yes, you're paying out $1,000, but your $250,000 house is now worth $285,000. Congratulations. Elementary schools don't quantify into real estate. So what you're offering is people to pay out without getting back, right? The value of your home will not rise based on based on your decisions with the elementary school. It can only go down.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your comments. And our last public speaker, Megan Laney. Is Megan still here? Megan Laney? All right, she's no longer here. All right, that ends our public comments. I want to thank everyone who spoke. I want to thank the crowd for your respect in listening to the speakers, and very good comments made. I personally agree with a lot of what was said. And now at this time, because it's part of our discussion/action agenda, it's posted in this area. I'm not anticipating any action tonight, but I am hoping for discussion. And, you know, I think, if I will, I'd turn it over to Bob. Do you have any comments?
I just want to say that I've really, I think our community, very closely connected to Willow and Holton, have shown up and have spoken, and many encouraging words, challenging the community, the whole community, to support what affects you is going to be key to this. I did not join the board to close schools or lose teachers. There are real concerns we have. These are our financial concerns, and yes, our schools are more than just money and our tax dollars. But while some will be willing to pay more, many might not. So we have to be very community-driven with any attempt we make to pass any referendum. We can point to every argument I hear for keeping a school open or closing a school or this, that. There's always another side to look at it. One of my personal main concerns is keeping our school district strong as far as programming and the ability to pay our teachers, because we have seen what happens when we can't afford to pay our teachers. It's happened in the past here. We lose our teachers to Minnesota and other schools. We have some advantages and some disadvantages. The disadvantages are real, and I know I keep hearing, you know, I can't believe that we won't have more kids in the future, that it won't bounce back. The facts are right now we have 3,000 kids, space for 3,000 kids, and we have 2,100 kids. Believe the demographics report or not, our housing prices are real, that other communities don't have those high housing prices. So it is very important that we work with our community and let our leaders know that we need affordable housing to allow younger families with children to move in. I really want to stress that I believe our board, no one on our board has an agenda moving forward to close schools. If we can make things work financially, we will. We will try. And I hope our community understands that. And I just really feel that we need a lot of communication, not division. We all have our students and our families top of the list in mind.
Right. Thank you, Bob. I think I want to echo some of those sentiments as well as sentiments as well, in that if quote unquote money were no object, I think it's clear we have great schools. It's really fulfilling for me to see the love that the people in this room have, and the people that were in the room on November 1st have for Holton and Willow. But I also remember back in 2018 when we rebounded, and we had very, very fervent parents that also thought Rivercrest was a great school, and people that thought EP Rock was a great school, and people that thought Hudson Prairie was a great school. They're great schools because of the teachers we have, because of the paras we have, because of the administration we have in those buildings, all right? It's the people that make it great. And just like any community, it's the people that make it great. Buildings are there to serve a purpose. And in this case, I would, if we had the budget to do that and throw all the numbers out, then we just, I want to see us have an option where the community decides at this point. I would like to see us put an operating referendum on the ballot in April that the folks in this room and the folks that were there on November 1st can get behind. And maybe we can raise the money that we can then run the school district for the foreseeable future. Maybe buy us a few years to see how the effect of COVID is on some of these numbers and enrollment, and see if we can have the kind of grassroots campaign to get affordable housing in. Maybe if there's folks who have a big stake in schools like Willow River and Holton, they will see the value of that. But that's one of the factors here that we don't have control over, folks. We can't force people to make babies. We can't force people to move here. I appreciate the people who did move here. I'm very, very appreciative that we moved here 32 years ago. My wife, we were able to raise our kids in a school with teachers that are in this room, and very much appreciate that. I think Hudson's a great community. I want to keep it great. I think our schools make it great. We want to keep that. The alternative, though, is if we don't have the money to run these schools, we can't, okay? We can't maintain the class sizes that we strive to have in all our schools. Right now, that class size range is 18 to 22, K through 2, and 22 to 27, or 28? 27, 22 to 27 in the grades 3 through 5. That, to me, is the most important thing, because I think class sizes in that classroom and help the teacher be able to have the ability. I do not want to see our district turned into a Minnesota district where teachers have 30, 35 kids in a kindergarten class. But we are threatened with that if we can't get this operating levy to pass. People asked me at that November 1st meeting, aren't you going to take questions? What happens about this? What's your real plans? Folks, we don't have any real plans other than we're throwing this out here. We have tried to do this without going back to the taxpayers. As far as when I say try this, we under-levied for almost 17 years in a row. I think it was 16 out of 17 years. We under-levied. We had the capacity to tax more. We opted not to, all right? Because we felt we were running our schools well. We didn't need to spend just for the sake of spending and taxing everyone to the max. But the law passed, and one of our retired teachers spoke at the November 1st meeting, made a very, very good point, is that the state legislature put this on local school districts, doesn't give us the ability to just raise the taxes that we think we need to be able to raise to do it. Instead, they put levy limits, revenue limits on school districts. And like I said, we operated fine. But somebody mentioned the 2001 Willow River referendum. Another referendum. I was on most of the vote yes referendums that we've had in the last 32 years, all right? But that came after we had a referendum in which we raised the revenue limit, okay? So this community did that. At the time, it was for teacher pay and computers. Dave Grambo, you can tell me, am I right? So the community will do it. Like somebody said, 4 Starbucks visits, whatever. There's a great way to pitch it, if we can make it sell. I want to be able to keep the schools the way they are. But if it doesn't pass, we're going to be forced to do things. And people say, well, what are the consequences? Go to school districts where they haven't been as fiscally responsible as this school district has for 20 years, okay? Go to the other school districts where they have to be forced to freeze teacher pay, raise class sizes, or close buildings. I mean, we're not the only school district in the whole state of Wisconsin, consider it. We're not the only school district that has lost enrollment in the last 8 years, all right? It's not unique to Hudson. So I would love to turn it around. I think that we do have a way to attract people to this district. I'd like to get more open enroll. Folks who maybe live in neighboring districts and they're on their way to the cities anyway, bring your kids to Hudson. I want to be able to promote that. So I think there's ways that we can do it. I just think that we need to move forward with the capital expenditures in the buildings that we know, for instance, the middle school for Hudson Prairie, for, or not Hudson Prairie, EP Rock and North Hudson. You know, we know that there's capital expenditures there. I would like to see us address those. And for me, I would like to put a pause on Willow and the discussions about closing Willow and Holton for probably 3 years and see what comes out of it. But again, we're just discussing things. We're not voting on anything tonight. And some folks have said, you know, it's all been one way. We're trying to give you information. If you have a question, we're willing to answer it. I'm willing to do more of these community meetings, but I'm just one board member. We got other people up here. So if we want to do those, we can do those. It's just a matter of scheduling them. Heather, did you have something?
Sure, if you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. John Hester, I don't know where you sat down, but I wrote down, if our downtowns aren't attracting new families, we need to turn that around. And when you said that, I kind of thought, well, wait a minute, it's not that we're not attracting new families, it's that they can't afford to live there. And then you followed it up with, we need to invest on keeping our community schools open while we work on affordable housing and watch our demographics for a few years. Leaving that community meeting on November 1st, those of you on the board know this, but my day job, I work with the Community Foundation. I previously worked with Allina Health. Nothing that's helpful in a medical emergency, but working on the external stuff around what makes communities healthy and strong. And for the past 20 years in this region, affordable housing. And initially we used to talk about low-income housing, and now we're talking about workforce housing, right? We're talking about housing for families that make $100,000 a year and still can't afford to buy homes. We're talking about our teachers who can't afford to raise their kids in Hudson because they can't find homes. And, you know, I think I just had the challenge of helping someone try to find an apartment in Hudson. And a tiny little 2-bedroom apartment is $1,800, and it's not that wonderful, people. And so I think I left that November 1st meeting, and it sounds like, Jamie, maybe echoing you, feeling like we've got a convergence here that I didn't expect that actually could be a real win-win for this community. Many of you may not know, we as a school board know, one of the things that Nick has worked really hard on kind of behind the scenes since I've been on the board, so for 6 years, is really involved with initiatives trying to figure out how can we have more affordable housing in this community, because he's been telling us as a board the way that school funding works in this state, people, if families with young kids can't afford to live in this community, we're going to have trouble. And now I got trouble right here in River City or Mayberry or whatever you want to call it. So I think there's a really good energy that I hope really turns into a commitment around how can we turn this into the situation we wish we were in. We wish we were in, I shouldn't say we, I wish we were in a situation where all 6 of our community schools were busting at the seams with kids, and we were talking about how do we either build on to continue to invest in, or maybe we do need a 7th public school here in Hudson because, wow, this is a place that families are moving to. And so I like the idea of, and I don't know exactly what that solution is yet, Jamie, if it's a mix of operating and capital, it sounds like probably we can't just punt the capital. I mean, we need to do some work. But while we really get people engaged in, yes, whatever referendum question we advance for April, whether it's operating and or capital, because as part of that question, we'll be able to engage and start doing the education around what's driving this. in a way that I think will raise everyone's awareness that for so many reasons we cannot afford for Hudson to be a place that only wealthy retirees can afford to move to, that we need this to be a place where people of all ages and incomes can live. So yeah, I'm liking the idea that we find an option that for now, and I think we have to be careful because we don't want to look like someone brought up Stillwater, and Stillwater is accused of kind of doing a bait and switch. You passed a referendum and then you closed the schools that we thought we were keeping open. So I think part of the message would have to be an honest sort of, we need to figure this out, and there's still a chance that in 5 or 10 years, if we don't see the trends change, that we'll be back having this conversation, and then we'll have buttons again, so maybe you have to save them. But I think to be really transparent about that, if we move ahead with an option that is a bit of a let's buy some time while we see how this shakes out, and then hopefully to energize the folks who are in this room, the folks who were at the middle school on November 1st, to really help us engage the community in this conversation that is, yes, about our schools, and is about something that's bigger than our schools. So that's where I'm at, Jamie.
All right, other members?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Heather. It's such a strange thing to be doing this because you kind of come up with, somebody had emailed us, it's the money, you know, and how the discussions we have with parents is more about the heart. I just want you to know that, I mean, this literally keeps me up at night. I don't know about any other board members. It's sickening. It's tough to be put in a situation like exactly where you want the schools to be bursting at the seams, and they're just not. We don't know what's going to happen. None of us can predict the future. And, none of that. I'm rambling, sorry. I think one thing I've been thinking about is I know that we've been chewing on this for a long time and thinking about this. And for the community, it's new and it's shocking. And when you feel like somebody's messing with your kids, that is just like a no-go for all of us. I get that. But I do want to say the school district and Nick and the architects came up with the best financial plan. And it's always good to start with, well, this is the best financial plan over the long term. We don't have to do that, but we have to go into it with open eyes, knowing that we can do some of the things, not that necessarily, do some other things where we're remodeling, we're renovating, but it ultimately will cost more money, and we have bought those schools for the next 20 years. And I'm not saying that I don't understand the heart and the feelings of the schools, and probably if my kids had gone to Willow River, I would be in the same boat as all of you, and same with Holton, but I'm not. So we have to make these hard decisions about what we're gonna do. I guess I feel like we absolutely have to have an operating referendum. There's just no other way around it. We are not, maybe gonna get some money from the state, maybe not at all. And as you guys know, teachers deserve raises, prices for materials, for keeping lights on, paying for fuel, that all goes up. So we have to pay all that. It has to come from somewhere. It comes from the community. So I think absolutely we have to have something like that. I would be comfortable tabling something for a few years to see what happens. The one good thing I was thinking, when Heather, you said there was kind of a convergence on November 1st, because it was such a tense situation, and people, rightfully had questions and needed answers. And by the end, I felt like, okay, we're all on the same page here, trying to figure out how can we make this work. I don't know, I feel like the affordable housing issue, it is an issue. I don't know, we couldn't afford to buy here. We moved here in 1993 and bought a house, I think in '98, for $80,000. And we bought a house so that me, on my tiny little salary, if something happened to my husband, that I could afford to pay for it. Our mortgage was $426. I'm not that old. I may look it, but I'm not that old. So it is a real problem. It just is. So anyway, super rambling. Totally appreciate all the emails and everything that everybody says, and just the really thoughtfulness and from the heart expressions about your schools. So thank you.
Mr. President? Yes, Rob. So I think the families at Willow and Holton are paying attention. The nice thing about what we've heard tonight is that we know there's passion for our schools. I'm also supportive of keeping Holton and Willow open, taking into consideration that, as the one gentleman mentioned, it's important for the energy that's in this room, both communities, to start spending time with your local community leaders, to start helping with, help us help you. Because unfortunately, we won't be able to say no forever. You know, I agree with Jamie as it relates to the operational levy. It's important for us to focus on our financial future to make sure that we stay intact. I, for one, personally am okay with holding off on any long-term capital campaign. And certainly, you know, we as a board will continue to have that conversation. It's not all about the money. It's not, but at the end of the day, as community members, you all expect a strong education. Every one of us that spoke tonight talked about the passion they've had for their teachers and for the education that their children have gotten, and how miserable it would be for our local community schools to close. And we as a board, and speaking just for myself, am passionate about making sure that we have that experience for all of our kids. And so if you can help us with this engagement of your local community leaders, I think that will go a long way towards helping this declining enrollment issue. And in the meantime, certainly help us focus on this operational levy so that we can continue to provide good services and great education for our students. And by the way, I'm okay with closing the ASC.
Yeah, I think that I'm not sure there's any board member in the discussions that we've had already that said that we're going to be continuing with the ASC forever. It's just that what I think we don't want to do is move it multiple times until we have a plan for our facilities.
Mr. President,
there will be a new
ASC is Administrative Services Center.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. President, I just want to weigh in as the last board member here to talk about it. I'm definitely willing to get creative. I think there's a lot of different things that we've gotten emails about that we need to focus on. So I think there's going to be compromise for all of us when we look at getting creative. But I think there's a lot of different options, things people have emailed about the administrative building, about the UU property, and then looking at what these priorities are. I've heard people talk about we don't need the same paint in every single classroom. I'm in agreement with you. I think we need to look at what these priorities actually are so that we know how much we're asking for and what's needed.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Kate mentioned she was the last. You're not the last. Carrie hasn't
Oh,
weighed
I'm
in
sorry,
yet, but-
Carrie.
That's okay, we can't see each other tonight. I'm actually in agreement with everything that's been said. I would also be supportive of an operational levy. And not to echo everything that was said tonight, but I am in agreement. One thing that has not been stated that has come up at the community meetings is that, yes, we need a referendum to address any capital investments that are needed at schools. We do not need a referendum, as it's been stated, for a board to close any schools. I would state that I will not vote to close either of our schools, any of our schools. But I do think this will need to be delayed and looked at, certainly, because we have maintenance issues that we know of. So I'm glad we are seeming to all agree on the potential path that we'll be going, and hopefully our community leaders are also listening, government leaders, and we can address some of the pressing issues. Thank you.
Bob, did you want to say something?
I just want to defend. I know there's been a lot of, the paint has been taking a beating tonight. This paint, and we're in the color right now, but this was a branding effort a few years back that we want to build community that was organically grown throughout. It wasn't meant to take the individual, effort out of schools or whatever. You look at all the kids at football games wearing those colors with pride from this tall all the way up to the seniors on the football team. So, come on, it's a great color.
I think it was just an example.
And those walls needed to be painted anyway at some time. I mean, they weren't all just painted all at once just to change something.
Yeah. No, I just want to clarify the painting. It wouldn't be painting a wall that doesn't need to get painted. They're saying painting to district standards. So I just want to make sure we clarify. It would be if we're going into a room and they do other work and they're going to paint the room, they would bring it to the district standard. It wouldn't be going into, like, let's say Rivercrest and painting that whole building to change colors or something like that. It would be when rooms need to be painted because we've done different work and things like that, replace windows or stuff like that. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same, understanding what that is. It's similar to, like, the high school here. We do a lot of painting in the high school every year, even with the new building, but we try not to paint things that don't need paint. It's just when they do need paint, we just want to put them to the district standard is what that was getting at. So I just want to make sure.
I wish I wouldn't have made that comment now. Sorry for the time taken.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just one final comment, and I think I'm stating the obvious. We will need to pass an operating referendum, and that is not a given in this community. I mean, so really, we're sitting saying, yes, we will work hard, we will pass an operating referendum, because as much as we can say we weren't going to close schools, we're going to have some serious operating challenges financially, so we need to pass an operating referendum. So yes, affordable housing, and more immediately, assuming that we move ahead with a referendum question in April that we need to pass an operating referendum, and there are people in this community who are going to vote no on that. So let's just be real about that. We are going to need people to get out, and other folks have said, we're going to need your help, we're going to need other people's help. We're going to need to convince this community, help them understand the importance of being willing to spend an extra, whatever it is, $10 a month, $400, whatever it is, to support our schools while we figure out this bigger question. So I just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss that. That's work ahead of us if we move ahead with this, and we're going to need you all to help with that. So.
Right. And I guess I want to echo that sentiment and maybe make a harder point that I don't want to be the Debbie Downer with all this positivity coming from the crowd and from up here on the board. But I guess where I differ with Carrie, although I'm not going to attribute that she put a specific date on her never vote to close or would not vote to close schools. I don't want to misquote you, Carrie. But I'm in that same camp. I would not vote to close schools as our first option, all right? So just so we're clear and we have transparency, folks, because if we get to April and that operating referendum doesn't pass, and I want to see a capital referendum for the other places where we need to invest in those things. But specifically the operating referendum, if it doesn't pass, we will be back here somewhere between April of 23, because the next referendum after that can't be until April of 24. And I'm not sure that 1 year is enough time for us to have this huge influx of students to reverse the trend, and that's not enough time to get affordable housing put up in all the townships in the village and the city. So but we will have to come back here, because I will not vote to do mass firings of teachers and raise our class sizes to 35 throughout the entire district. I'm not going to vote for that. But I would vote to close the school before we get to that point, okay? So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not going to vote this year for that, but we need the support of the community. If the community supports the schools, there's nobody a bigger supporter of our schools than me, all right? With all due deference to the other board members up here and our superintendent and everybody. And I want to mention Nick too, because he's taken a lot of heat in some of these emails that we get, and I think it's unjustifiably so, because he's trying to run a district with the way that we can. And he's been sounding the clarion call for the last 3 years. Folks, we're dipping into the property tax, and anybody in here that pays property tax has seen it. But that's because of the way the state funds schools. This is not a function of Dr. Nicolette or this school board saying that we want to just raise your taxes for the sake of raising your taxes. It's because we have revenue limits, all right, from the city or from the state that we're now running up against, all right? And so we need the community support to be able to keep the way of life that everybody in this room wants to try and keep, okay? But if those referendums don't pass, we will be back here talking about the same thing, okay? Is there anybody else that wants to make a comment from the board? All right, with that, we move on to the very important work of selecting our delegate for the state convention of the Wisconsin School Board. And usually it's the most junior member draws the short straw for that task. But since I got appointed to the State Policy and Resolution Committee, and I need to go to that delegate assembly anyway, I will not reject the nomination if somebody wants to nominate me. All right.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I accept, and I have the job. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. By the way, there was posted on there a closed agenda, but that's being adjourned for now.
You need an alternate as well.
Oh, an alternate. Very good. I nominate, Rob, are you willing to take the alternate?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thanks, Rob, for pointing out we need an alternate. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.